It was an eerie morning in Cajamarca when Francisco Pizarro and a handful of armored Spaniards met the sovereign of the largest empire in the Americas. The date was November 16th, 1532. The setting was a market town in the northern highlands of what the Spaniards called Peru. On one side stood Atahualpa, recently victorious in a brutal civil war against his brother Huascar, and surrounded by hundreds, perhaps thousands, of unarmed attendants. On the other, a sharp-eyed band of 30 Spaniards, pistols and cannons at the ready. What began as a parley turned into one of the most consequential crimes of the early colonial era. A calculated seizure, a splendid ransom, and an execution wrapped in legal and religious theater. Pizarro had crossed the ocean with promises, ambitions, and a readiness to exploit any advantage. He invited Atahualpa to meet, then staged an ambush. According to multiple eyewitness accounts, a friar attempted a Christian sermon. Atahualpa rejected it. Shots rang out. Cavalry charged. The imperial retinue was slaughtered in the plaza. The emperor himself, stunned and outnumbered by firearms and steel, was taken alive and confined in a small, dark cell. The Spanish force had traded parley for capture, a deliberate, conspiratorial act by men who understood how quickly fortune and loyalty could turn when empires met. In the months that followed, the crime took an even stranger turn. Atahualpa offered to buy his freedom. He promised to fill a room with gold and 2 rooms with silver, a ransom so vast it reshaped the fortunes of men and kingdoms. Treasure poured in, ornaments, plates, idols, and bars, melted and carted off to satiate Spanish avarice. Estimates vary, but the haul was staggering, the equivalent of years of royal revenue for Spain. The conspirators were no longer merely soldiers. They had become custodians of immense wealth and the architects of a new political order. Yet payment did not restore freedom. The conspiracy deepened. Pizarro and his captains fretted that Atahualpa, even bound and hostage, remained a focal point around which resistance could coalesce. The Spanish crown had not yet given clear authority over the territory. Local rivalries among conquistadors, fears of rebellion, and greed for treasure made compromise unlikely. The solution they devised was to convert their plunder into legitimacy, a mock trial that would cloak murder with law. Atahualpa was accused of crimes: the killing of his brother Huascar, idolatry, and plotting the Spaniards' murder, and brought before a Spanish council and clerics to stand judgment. The proceedings were a juridical theater, charges assembled conveniently, testimonies shaped by interpreters and the needs of conquerors, verdicts that served political ends. Sentence: death. The chosen method was strangulation by garrote, a swift, suffocating end intended to be less bloody, but no less final. In the final moments, to secure a Christian soul and to placate conscience, the friars baptized him, giving him the Christian name Juan. Minutes after, Atahualpa, once emperor of the Inca, was garroted. The execution date is recorded in Spanish sources as July 26, 1533. The conspiracy that killed Atahualpa had layers: a tactical ambush that violated the rules of parley, a grotesque bargaining for freedom that transformed sovereignty into commodity, and a legal farce that converted murder into statecraft. The consequences were immediate and irreversible. With the emperor gone and the imperial center destabilized, the Spaniards advanced on Cuzco, installed puppet rulers, and accelerated the collapse of the Inca polity. The ransom wealth funded further campaigns and enriched a handful of conquistadors in the crown, while millions of indigenous people were subjected to colonial rule. Cajamarca became a template: how superior arms, legal subterfuge, and missionary rhetoric could be combined to silence a ruler and seize an empire. The story is not only one of battlefield treachery and greed, it is a case study in how a crime dressed as conquest reshaped an entire continent. 4 centuries on, the captured emperor's last name remains a stark reminder: power can be bought, mercy can be sold, and law can be wielded as a weapon. The rope at Cajamarca closed a chapter of an empire and opened one of colonization, a true crime whose echoes are still felt in the Andes today.